Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Bubbly and Blazers, the podcast where we talk business, life, and all the bubbly moments in between. I'm Ainsley, and here is my amazing co-host, Shayla.
Yay! Welcome, everyone. Today, we're diving into something way too many of us can relate to, I think, burnout. That feeling when you're exhausted, unmotivated, and just feel like you're running on empty. Whether it's from work, school, side hustles, or just life in general, burnout sneaks up on the best of us.
It's brutal.
Ugh,
And it's final season. So,
very
um,
relevant.
you you can't relate right now, Shayla, which is lovely. I hope you're having the best time. But yeah, we definitely super topical, I feel like, with people in my life right now. So in today's episode, we're gonna break it all down, how to recognize the early warning signs, exploring some reasons behind why it happens and how it affects your body. This is actually so interesting.
Mm,
Everyone's gonna love this.
yeah, I'm
Maybe not,
excited to
but
get into it.
and then real strategies to recover and prevent from having all this bad energy take over your life. We don't like that. So,
No. So if you've ever
yeah,
felt completely drained and wondered, is it just me? It's not.
it's
So
not
grab your bubbly. Let's take a deep collective breath together.
a cleansing
and
breath.
and let's talk about it.
Amazing.
I feel
Um,
like you touched on already.
yeah,
It's so real to, I think, like this moment and kind of why we decided we wanted to talk about burnout.
literally.
Ainsley, maybe we'll just dive right into it. Maybe
Finals
share with us.
episode.
Yeah.
Listen, I hate to say it because I really feel like your student semester's like 4 months. But I like literally everyone I'm talking to is like, no, I'm exhausted. I want to lay in my bed. I'm over
hmm
it.
hmm
So, I think that is like a bit of a light burnout that we see a lot of time with students.
hmm
And that's kind of how I feel. I feel like I've had like a really like coming into the end of this school year, I feel like I've had a very fulfilling year, but a very like busy year, and I get sleepy. I was in
Yeah.
an appointment today and we were talking about how we love naps and I just want to be an old Italian man like on a plastic chair at the beach having a little rest. This is what I yearn for. So that's kind of where I'm at personally. I think yeah, I think burnout has come up for me too. Like, I mean, obviously in certain professional situations, like
hmm
things just get to the point where you're like, I can't return here. I'm so annoyed or whatever.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, I think people probably experience it more than they think they do. They're like, "Oh, I'm fine," or like, "I'm just tired," or "I'm a little bit annoyed."
definitely.
But if you kind of like dug deep into it, it's like, girl, we're all burnt out. So we need to take care of ourselves.
Definitely. I mean, you kind I like that you brought up the school semester because I think
Mm-hmm.
obviously with school, I think it does happen in those cycles of a semester.
Mm-hmm.
Like they put so much into each one, and sure, it's only 4 months, but it can be very intense, like you said. And,
Yeah.
by the end of it, you're just feeling absolutely drained. But I do think there's
Mm-hmm.
also something about like this time of year. Um, because I'm not in school anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like the conversations I've been having with a lot of friends or business connections is
Mm-hmm.
kind of similar. Like I think we're at the point of the year where we're what, 4 months in.
Yeah.
The weather
First quarter.
first quarter done.
Done. Check it off.
Woo! Um, but like the weather hasn't changed. It's still kind of winter out there. It's almost
Yeah.
spring. We're feeling like maybe we're not as close to our goals as we had thought we would be. There's still so much time left in the year. There's like all
Mm-hmm.
these things. And I feel like, yes, specifically around this time of year, burnout just seems to be a very common topic of conversation. So I think it's very appropriate that we're talking about this this week.
Yeah. I think that that's a thing that like personally other people have brought up to me
hmm
that I was like didn't really think about, but it's so true. It's like you really are like the first quarter of the year's done, like all jokes aside. And it's totally that. It's like, okay, you're kind of exactly like looking back on January, like, okay, where am I
Hmm.
at? But I mean, I feel like personally, I'm trying to take it as like an opportunity to be like, okay, revisit the goals and maybe not compare so much because it's like we do our best, things happen, but it's like, okay, like almost like take it as a chance of like a regroup and like a refocus on those goals.
Yeah.
I don't know. That might be worse for people, but that's where I'm at.
A little, maybe let's like rewind just a little bit. So
Yeah.
like burnout, exactly what it is kind of, just that long-term stress that really leads to mental, emotional, and physical exhaustion. So, your body is literally burning out. You don't have the
Hmm.
energy to keep doing what you're doing at the rate that you are. And, some causes of that, like what you mentioned, is, overworking, perhaps lack of boundaries, putting too high expectations on yourself, or having others
Hmm.
set really high expectations of you. Um, and then, kind of that lack of control or feeling stuck in a situation, which I think you can relate to with school. You don't really get to choose when your
Yeah.
exams are, when your projects are due.
You're like, no. Yeah. So some symptoms that I think are really interesting. I just
Mhm.
kind of did a class on this actually in my organizational
Oh,
behavior
interesting.
class, and the
Okay.
professor was like, he was like, I describe it to people always as being like, oh, I'm on empty. You're on empty
Mm,
if you're
hmm.
burnt out. You like there's no gas in the tank.
Yeah.
The car's not moving.
Yeah.
Like I'm over it. I'm done. So yeah, some of those symptoms include constant fatigue, feeling unmotivated or disconnected from your work. You can also feel disconnected from like social, like it can almost like show
Hmm.
up as like extreme anxiety, like you're withdrawing from
Yeah.
things you like, people you like, increased irritability, and then the physical symptoms like headaches, tension, poor immune system, like it's just like a sign that like something is no bueno.
Yeah. You need
Um,
rest. You need to recover.
yeah. So I think I don't know, I think it's something that we need to pay attention to as humans. Like, sometimes you're just like, oh, I'm just tired. It's like, okay, why? Like, are we getting enough rest? Are we
Yeah.
drinking enough water? Or is something like bigger going on behind the scenes?
That's just it, right? It's like people that run their car as low as they possibly
Yeah.
can on empty. It's like, well, eventually the car's just going to break down.
Yep.
And you're not really going to have a choice as to what you're going to have to do, but you're going to have a really high repair bill and you're going to have to get a tow to the shop. So, would you
Literally.
rather top up the tank when you realize that it's getting low, or would you rather have it completely fall apart and have to deal with it when it decides to?
Yeah. 100%.
And I mean, I know for me, like I find like my immune system definitely takes a hit.
Mm.
I get yeah, I find I get sick. And it's not just like a common cold, or maybe it is, but yeah, just kind of like
You're like laid
repeatedly.
out in bed, like,
Exactly.
ugh.
And then that irritability piece was interesting too about,
Hmm.
like, yeah, noticing if your mood has changed over the last while. Like, are you constantly feeling like irritable? Are little things bothering you more? It's kind of sneaky signs that maybe
Yeah.
something's not quite right.
Yeah. It's an interesting topic for sure.
Hmm.
Do you feel like you've ever ignored burnout and then like what was the situation like kind of going forward with that?
Yeah, I definitely.
For sure. I've been there.
Yep.
Mm.
Can confirm. Um, I'd say I okay, we were talking earlier before we started recording this podcast about, taking some awareness and
Yes.
ownership.
Yeah.
And I know that when I don't want to deal with something or I'm trying to avoid feeling something, I try and fill my schedule with as many things as I possibly can because then I
Yeah.
don't have to sit and think about what I'm trying to avoid thinking about.
Totally.
Right, like seems like a great idea. We'll
Yeah.
just keep pushing that
If I
aside.
if I don't have time to think, I can't. So, joke's on
Exactly.
you.
So yeah, over the last, I'd say like couple years, there was some kind of big things that happened, and I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't really taking the proper time to address them. Kept filling my schedule with different things, and they were all things I liked doing and was excited about. And then I just hit this breaking point where I was exhausted. Like
Yeah.
I just had taken on too much. I was seeing it overflow into my work, which resulted in a lot of like kind of like internal conflicts with like, we talk about putting high expectations on yourself and just not matching
Yeah.
those. Um, all in all, to say, I finally kind of had that breaking moment of just feeling so absolutely burnt out. I would say like it probably took me about 4 months until
Yeah.
I finally felt in the place that I wasn't
Wow.
burnt out anymore. Yeah.
That's crazy.
So I've definitely been there. I've definitely had small moments of it, but I've also had like a pretty big one that I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I'm just kind of getting out of the last couple months, which is a nice spot to be in,
You're like,
but
cool.
very eye-opening.
Yeah. It's definitely, yeah, it's scary kind of when you have those kinds of valleys in your life.
hmm
It's very normal, but it's like, yeah, you kind of get to a place where you're like, cool, I guess if I had dealt with this maybe sooner, it wouldn't have been such a recovery process, but here we are.
Exactly.
Here we are. Here we are.
Exactly.
Yeah. Let's talk about strategies because
Yeah.
this
What
is
does that
like,
recovery look like?
yeah, I think this is important. This is something I've been trying to practice, and it's not always possible. I think it's
hmm
difficult for students. This would be like just taking a real break.
hmm
So personally, it's tougher for students, but if it's possible, it's like, okay, I'm gonna do as much as I can until Friday at 5. I'm
hmm
closing the laptop. I'm doing nothing this weekend. And Monday, then I pick it back up again. Because it's
hmm
like sometimes for me personally, I'm like, I just need a weekend where I just don't communicate with anybody about work or school. I don't do anything for work or school. I just like get out in nature, see my friend, like whatever kind of
hmm
hits the spot for each individual.
hmm
Um, and it's like then Monday, maybe I'm like a little bit like, oh, I've left all this, I have a bit to do. But it's like I always try to just like take a deep breath and remind myself, it's like, okay, had you continued at the pace you were going,
hmm
you wouldn't even be productive today. So at least right now, like, yeah, you have lots to do, but you're going to be productive doing it and just like do as much as you can and then like carry on, like, I don't know, the whole week's ahead of you. So that's mine.
Yeah.
That's mine lately.
No, I like that. And I think like remembering too that like each of these strategies is going to look different for each
Yeah.
person.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I've been really I'd say like playing around with, I guess you could say,
Giving it a go, giving it a test.
is like micro breaks.
Okay.
So, I was working in a 9 to 5 and recently switched to running my own business. So my schedule
Mm-hmm.
is flexible. And it's been kind of interesting to see when my most productive times are and kind of putting that emphasis on taking those small breaks. To
Mm-hmm.
have a reset or to have a pause doesn't mean necessarily like a full day or a full weekend or a full week
Mm-hmm.
or month off, but rather like what little thing can you do in your day that just gives you some time to mentally reset. For me, I've noticed like between the hours of say 2 and 4, I have a little crash. And so
Yeah.
what I've been trying to be more aware of is, not putting meetings during that time, not
Mm-hmm.
putting, work blocks during that time, but instead, okay, maybe that's when I have a snack. Maybe that's when I go for a 30-minute walk outside, like
Mm-hmm.
put the phone down, read a book for 10 minutes, like find those little breaks and figure out how to incorporate them into my day so that by the
Yeah.
time 5 o'clock rolls around, I'm not feeling absolutely exhausted and just become a little couch potato.
Yeah. Just
Not that it
uh
isn't great either. Sometimes that's perfect.
no, but it's true, like, and I feel like a lot of people can probably relate. Like it's like you are like in such a grind mindset and then you're like,
hmm
cool, I'm at home, I'm gonna just sit on TikTok. Like I'm so
Yeah.
guilty of that. And it's like, you know, I'm pro TikTok. There's lots of things of value on there, but it's
Definitely.
like when like a couple hours goes by and you're just
Hmm.
like you said, just like literally like melted into your couch, just like
Hmm.
like an iPad kid.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like it's a bit much. And it's like I personally don't feel that like rested after. Like it
No.
feels nice to turn my brain off for a bit, but it's
Yeah.
like I don't feel rested per se. So I
Yeah.
don't know. Balancing
Yeah.
it, I guess.
Certainly. And, it's kind of leads into, another point of setting boundaries,
Yeah.
learning to say no without guilt,
Mm-hmm.
or even protecting your time, and your energy. So, if you know that taking on that extra shift at work is going to mean
Mm-hmm.
that your schoolwork doesn't get done, which means you're going to be stressed, you're going to stay up late, you're not going to sleep, you're going to feel tired the next day, and yada, 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 the snowball effect that that has. Is that
Mm-hmm.
extra shift at work really worth it? Maybe
Yeah.
not. Maybe
Just
you
say
need to
no.
just focus. Yeah, exactly. Easier said than done, when
It's
you look
hard.
at your
Yeah.
bank account and
You're like, or like I feel like you said there, like with no guilt, like it's like people are just
Mhm.
like they get this like vibe of like I feel bad. It's like okay, yes, but you need to like protect your peace.
Yeah, I actually just was having a conversation with a friend recently because her and I both left long-term jobs, and we
Mm-hmm.
both had set aside a period of time that we were going to take off for ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
reset, deal with some burnout that we were experiencing, and we were both like, my first day, I remember thinking like going into it, I'm like, okay, I'm going to, like wake up early, drink my water, go for my walk, do this class, like all these things.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just like sat on the couch and I was so tired. And
Yeah.
all I wanted to do was lay there. But I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't get over the fact that I wasn't being as productive as I thought
Yeah.
I should be. And so my advice to her was just like, you gave yourself this time to rest and
Mm.
recover. You need to be kind to yourself and allow yourself without the guilt of it to enjoy it.
So huge.
Yeah.
So huge. Um, kind of piggybacking off of that and what I said
Hmm.
too. Yeah, like finding what re-energizes you. It's like, do I
Mm.
need to have a bed raw day? No
Yeah.
worries.
Yeah.
Do I need to go to a new like little neighborhood and do a thrift and a coffee situation?
Mm.
Great. Are you introverted? Like, do you just like that need to stay home, read a book,
Yeah.
listen to music, or are you a little more outro or extroverted? Sorry. And you're like, oh, I need to have like a night with the girlies or a coffee. It's like, like some people, that's their worst nightmare. Like, I
Hmm.
don't want to spend time with anyone. And then some people, they feel really good, way better after that. So it's like, you kind of need to yeah, find like what works best for you, of course.
Definitely. What are some things that you find like really recharge you when you're dealing with
Um,
burnout?
yeah, so this is again citing my sources, my this same organizational behavior course. I will say I don't even like this course that much. I complain a lot about it, but I do like the content.
Yeah.
And so that was something I learned this semester. It's like
Hmm.
people always say like, "Oh, you're an introvert, like you're quiet. You're an extrovert, you're loud." It's like, no, it's like it's about your energy and what gives
Hmm.
you energy.
Mm.
And I feel like I'm a bit of both.
Mm.
Sometimes I'm like, I'm overstimulated. I need to sit in a dark room or I need to nap for like 8 hours.
Yeah.
But then sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to go out on Friday. Like that, just like seeing my friends and having a little bit of fun, like that can be very helpful to me. So I'm
Hmm.
a bit of a balancing act, I think.
Hmm. That's so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
My housemate and I were just having a conversation similar to this the other day,
Mm-hmm.
where talk about like energy. I wake up and I've got tons of energy. I'm excited about the day and like I'm
Yes.
ready to go. And
Mm-hmm.
like my battery starts way up and like as the day goes on, it slowly drains and drains and drains. And by the time I
Mm-hmm.
get ready for bed, like my head hits the pillow and
You're like,
typically like I'm out. Yeah.
I love.
But him, he wakes up, slowly and quietly. And like as he meets more people, as he talks more, as he becomes social, gets work done, his battery fills up as the day goes on. And by the time
Yeah.
evening hits, he's like at his peak and he's just like,
Mm-hmm.
so it's really interesting, like you touching on that too with like, introverted, extroverted personalities,
Yeah.
but even just noticing like times of day too that you feel most like,
Energized.
yeah.
Totally. Totally. Exactly. Totally. I love that. And don't be afraid to get support, of course. We're big
Yeah.
pro support girlies.
Hmm.
Um, it's tough. Like it's tough out there. I think people are talking more and more about mental health, especially in the workplace. It's still like a bit weird, but
Hmm.
at the end of the day, like pretty much everybody experiences burnout. Like it's
Yeah.
really like a thing people are talking about. It's people know about it. It's not like some sort of like vague concept anymore.
Yeah.
It's like I think there's something to be said about like speaking up for yourself at work and saying like, "Yeah, I'm having issues right now.
Yeah.
And I need a little support here and there." But yeah, talking to friends, mentors, therapists,
Hmm.
yeah, I think the colleagues, like I think all that could possibly be helpful as well. So don't be afraid. We all need to be brave and speak up for ourselves.
Definitely. Think about the amount of times that someone asks, like, hey, how are you today? And you're just like, yeah,
I'm
good.
good. I'm fine. Thanks.
Granted, not like every time someone's gonna ask you, you're gonna be like, tell them your whole life story, but
Like word vomit. Well, it was a tough weekend.
to the poor man at the grocery store, he's like, I don't get paid enough to listen to you.
Okay, cool. It was merely a polite greeting.
Do you want paper or plastic?
Yeah. Can you pay? How do you want to pay me? Can you leave?
But the ones that you truly do connect with, like being
Yeah.
honest with them as to where you're at so that
Hmm.
people can also support you
Yeah,
when you're going through something.
for sure.
Okay, let's talk about then how we prevent burnout from even really started.
Ooh, this is interesting.
Yeah.
Our notes say, quote, stop glorifying the grind. I always say this to people, like in a joking sense, but I really feel it deeply. I'm like,
Yeah.
yes, we want to work hard. Yes, we want to have success, but I'm like, no, we need to stop glorifying the grind. Like,
Yeah,
we need to be in a meadow. We need to be having a tea party. We need to be resting, having a good time as well, taking care of ourselves.
definitely. Yeah, yeah. You said it well. I'm
Thank
gonna leave
you.
it at that.
Thank you. That's my next tattoo. I got, what did I got? Your network is your net worth. I got that last week, and then now I'm gonna get stop glorifying the grind. This is a joke.
Yeah, I like that one. I think also, like scheduling your downtime like it's a meeting, right? Like we
Mm-hmm.
talked about, if you don't take time to rest, your body is going to tell you when it's time to rest.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, like you would prioritize a friend going for coffee, like you would prioritize a new network connection. You need to also prioritize yourself. And if that means scheduling, a hard 30-minute lunch where you
Mm-hmm.
go outside with your sandwich or whatever and go for a walk, then you also need to stick to that.
Yeah.
So yeah, making sure, if you're someone that uses your calendar, like put it in the calendar.
Pencil it in. No, this is
Exactly.
huge though, because like people be like, "Hey, do you have time for like this at this time?"
Hmm.
And it's like you're kind of like you can easily talking about the guilt piece, like you can easily be like, "Oh, well, yeah, I guess
Yeah.
I have a sec." Like it's like, nope, I
Yeah.
have something scheduled. It's like it's none of anybody's business.
Yeah.
I'm busy at that time.
Exactly.
Sorry.
I mean, I think about personally, like how many times I've pushed off, like, I don't know, like an exercise class or something
Yeah.
because another plan came up and I just felt
Yeah.
like I should go to that.
Mm-hmm.
But, maybe it would have been better off going to spin or
Yeah.
something
To be like, oh,
else.
I have plans. Sorry. I'm booked up at that time. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You can also celebrate small wins. We're all about
Yes.
progress over perfection.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again,
I feel
same
like this
thing.
isn't done enough.
No, yeah, this is like grind culture. Like it's
Yeah.
like we don't need to be perfect.
Yeah.
We just need to be
A little
doing our
bit better.
best. Yeah, we
Yeah.
love.
And I think, you know, burnout, like, often comes with those feelings of like you're not meeting the expectation or you're not doing as much as you should. Like, there's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of guilt that also comes in.
Yeah.
And I feel like, when you take those little moments to celebrate the little things, it kind of lessens those negative talks. So I
Yeah.
think celebrating the small wins is so huge, and celebrating the small wins for other people too, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you see someone doing something, telling them that you appreciate that, or really
Yeah,
championing them. The more we start to do it for other people, the more we start to do it for ourselves. And I think that's huge in shifting that kind of mindset as well.
for sure. For sure. And on top of that piece, like checking in with yourself, like how am I
Mm,
doing? How am I
hmm
actually feeling? Um, yeah, I think that's a good add-on to that because that can be very, very helpful. We'll check in.
Totally. I have this little like post-it note. I'm big on post-it notes. Sorry,
Love.
environment. I love them.
You're like, I
I
need the notes for myself.
I have this little post-it note that I put in my bathroom, like on the mirror, and it just says like, how are you feeling? What do you need? And
Yeah.
like every time, like when I wake up and I'm brushing my teeth, like just kind of thinking about like what that is and yeah,
Mm-hmm.
what I need from myself today, or how I'm feeling. And it's just like a good little reminder, a little check-in.
A little mindfulness moment.
Yeah.
Love. Okay, should we break it down?
Let's break it down.
Okay, one, burnout is real. It's not fake. It's a real thing. If you're feeling exhausted and disconnected, you're not making it up. You need to solve some things,
hmm
and you can do it. We believe in you.
Yeah. Listen to the signs. So ignoring them will only make them worse. So make sure you're listening.
You can do it. We believe in you. Recovery takes time. So, yeah, just like prioritize whatever you need, whether that's rest, boundaries, recharging, new experiences, things that get you excited, whatever. Do what makes you feel best.
Yeah, and last but certainly not least, prevention is key. So, build in those breaks, make those self-care moments happen, and find balance before you hit that wall.
Huge. All right. So, just remember, burnout doesn't mean you're weak or failing. It just means you're human. It happens to everybody. So the best thing you can do for yourself and your future is listen to your body, set boundaries, and prioritize your well-being. Take care of yourself.
Yeah. So if today's episode resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, share with a friend who might need to hear this. And until next time, blazers on, bubbly in hand, and take care of yourself out there, business girlies.
Goodbye.
Cheers!
Cheers.